Government Services, dial 311.
This is City Controller Scott Stringer. Your credit score isn't just a number. It's the key to financial freedom. That's why we have a proposal to add rent payments into credit reporting. Making rent count could mean lower bills, cheaper borrowing rates, and higher scores for New Yorkers. To learn more about how to get rent added to your credit score, visit controller.nyc.gov and search for Making Rent Count. This is New York City Comptroller Scott Stringer. As New Yorkers, we know that diversity makes us stronger. The truth is, immigrants help power our city's economy. They earn $100 billion in income, pay billions in taxes, and own more than 83,000 small businesses. We all have a responsibility to stand up and protect our neighbors, and that starts with being informed. To read my report on how immigrants contribute to New York's economy, visit controller.nyc.gov.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311 or visit nyc.gov.
I'm Commissioner Greg Bishop of the New York City Department of Small Business Services. Do you need help signing, renewing, or resolving some other issue with a business lease in New York City? You may be eligible for free legal services. For more information, call 311 and ask for commercial lease assistance or visit nyc.gov/SBS. That's nyc.gov/SBS.
I'm Victor Calisi, Commissioner of the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities. Traveling around the city can become a challenge when drivers fail to follow basic parking rules. Parking spaces designated for people with disabilities ensure equal access to goods and services. Parking without a permit in a designated space or using a fake permit is illegal. For more information, dial 311.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311.
I'm Donna Corrado, Commissioner of the New York City Department for the Aging. Any person aged 60 and older can avail themselves of a myriad of senior centers located throughout the 5 boroughs. Senior centers foster friendships, offer fitness and wellness classes, hot, nutritious meals, and other fun activities. Members can also get assistance applying for entitlements and benefits. Go see for yourself. Call 311 to get the location of a center near you.
Hi, I'm Bita Mostofi, the Acting Commissioner of the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs. Deferred action for childhood arrivals and temporary protected status are crucial protections for many immigrant New Yorkers, but the Trump administration has put these programs at risk. If you or someone you love have questions about DACA, TPS, or other immigration matters, call 311 and say Action NYC for a free and confidential legal screening. To learn more, visit nyc.gov/immigrants.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311 or visit nyc.gov.
Hi, I'm DCAS Commissioner Lisette Camilo. The Department of Citywide Administrative Services is an instrumental part of New York City government. We're comprised of more than 2,000 employees who work in personnel management, engineering, procurement, real estate, custodial services, and more. We're on a mission to be customer-focused, service-driven. To find out more about what DCAS does and who we are, visit nyc.gov/DCAS.
Hello, this is New York City Public Advocate Letitia James. Equal pay for equal work should be more than just a slogan. It should be a reality. And that's why I sponsored a law that bans employers from asking candidates about salary history, breaking a cycle of wage discrimination. If you are asked your salary history at a job interview, do not hesitate to call my office at 212-669-7250 or email us at pubadvocate.nyc.gov or call 311.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311.
The Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities now has a direct video conferencing line for people who are deaf or hard of hearing, ASL Direct. ASL Direct connects users to an information specialist fluent in ASL that can provide information about New York City services. If you have a friend, family member, or neighbor who is deaf or hard of hearing, Let them know about ASL Direct. Help us spread the word. For more information or to get connected to New York City government, visit nyc.gov/ASL. That's nyc.gov/ASL.
The Taxi and Limousine Commission's Accessible Dispatch Program now offers citywide service. Order a yellow or green wheelchair accessible taxi on demand or in advance at no extra cost. Download the Accessible Dispatch app, book at accessibleddispatch.com or call 646-599-9999. For New York Relay, dial 711. Now you can access the city like never before.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311 or visit nyc.gov.
Hello, this is New York City Public Advocate Letitia James. Every New Yorker deserves to live in a safe and decent home, but too often residents are forced to live in dangerous conditions and face illegal harassment by their landlords. If you are having problems with your home or your landlord, please call my office at 212-669-7250. Email us at pubadvocate.nyc.gov or call 311.
This is Charlene McCrae, the First Lady of New York City. Thousands of immigrant New Yorkers depend on temporary protected status, but for many people, this crucial protection has been ended by the Trump administration, and thousands of children are at risk of losing their guardians. TPS recipients are a vital part of our city. We can't let their families be torn apart. If you or a loved one has TPS or any questions regarding immigration, you can get a free, safe, and confidential legal screening. Just call 311 and say Action NYC. Learn more at nyc.gov/TPS.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311.
Hi, I'm Al Weber, Director of NYC Open Data. Every time you call 311, register for a city permit, or see your streets cleaned, you're seeing your government at work. You're also seeing the creation of public data. Did you know that there are over 1,900 such data sets available to the public on the NYC Open Data portal? We believe that every New Yorker can benefit from open data, and our portal gives you the tools to fully participate in a data-informed city. Get started by visiting nyc.gov/opendata.
I'm Donna Corrado, Commissioner of the New York City Department for the Aging. As people age, they often face a shrinking circle of family, friends, and social life, which leads to isolation and loneliness. But it doesn't have to be that way. A commitment of an hour a week as a friendly visitor makes a world of difference. To volunteer your time or to connect with a friendly visitor, call 311. A meaningful friendship can begin with a simple phone call.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311 or visit nyc.gov.
They do the work few ever see and fight for kids and families most of us never hear about. They're the ones who answer the call for help when a loving mom can't afford food, when addiction, domestic violence, or mental health issues turn a family upside down, even when new parents need a crib so their newborn can sleep safe. When our city's kids and families need help, Child Protective Specialists are there. Learn more about Child Protective Specialists at nyc.gov/CPS.
Inspired by a letter sent to the New York City Commission on Human Rights.
I was always in a good mood. Then it happened.
My coworker approached me from the back, grabbed me, and pressed down on my shoulders hard. I tried to get away, but he pressed down on me even harder.
Does your husband please you like this? Does he get you excited?
There is no excuse.
This is sexual harassment, and New York City is ready to help and fight for you.
Call 718-722-3131 or visit nyc.gov/humanrights.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311.
Hello, I'm Buildings Commissioner Rick Chandler. Construction safety is our top priority to protect both workers and the public. Starting this spring, most construction workers will need to have approved safety training or they will not be able to work. For more information, please visit nyc.gov/DOB. Working together, we will build our city safely. Thank you.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311 or visit nyc.gov.
When addiction overwhelms a family or domestic violence shatters a home, when a loving mom can't feed her kids or afford a crib to keep her newborn safe, ACS's Child Protective Specialists are there, fighting for our city's kids and families with emergency food, clothing, and cribs, referrals for domestic abuse relief, substance abuse counseling, mental health services, whatever it takes to make kids safe and their families strong. Celebrate Child Protective Specialist Appreciation Week with us. Learn more at nyc.gov/CPS.
I'm New York City's Chief Service Officer, Paula Gavin. Looking for a paid opportunity to address community needs, gain job skills, and build your leadership? Join AmeriCorps with NYC Service. Our programs place New Yorkers at nonprofits or city agencies for a year to develop volunteer programs, support city initiatives, and fight poverty. Visit nyc.gov/serveNYC or call 311 and request NYC Service to apply. 8.6 million New Yorkers together serving each other.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311.
This is City Controller Scott Stringer. Your credit score isn't just a number. It's the key to financial freedom. That's why we have a proposal to add rent payments into credit reporting. Making rent count could mean lower bills, cheaper borrowing rates, and higher scores for New Yorkers. To learn more about how to get rent added to your credit score, visit controller.nyc.gov and search for Making Rent Count. This is New York City Comptroller Scott Stringer. As New Yorkers, we know that diversity makes us stronger. The truth is, immigrants help power our city's economy. They earn $100 billion in income, pay billions in taxes, and own more than 83,000 small businesses. We all have a responsibility to stand up and protect our neighbors, and that starts with being informed. To read my report on how immigrants contribute to New York's economy, visit controller.nyc.gov.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311 or visit nyc.gov.
I'm Commissioner Greg Bishop of the New York City Department of Small Business Services. Do you need help signing, renewing, or resolving some other issue with a business lease in New York City? You may be eligible for free legal services. For more information, call 311 and ask for commercial lease assistance or visit nyc.gov/SBS. That's nyc.gov/SBS.
I'm Victor Calisi, Commissioner of the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities. Traveling around the city can become a challenge when drivers fail to follow basic parking rules. Parking spaces designated for people with disabilities ensure equal access to goods and services. Parking without a permit in a designated space or using a fake permit is illegal. For more information, dial 311.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311.
I'm Donna Corrado, Commissioner of the New York City Department for the Aging. Any person age 60 and older can avail themselves of a myriad of senior centers located throughout the 5 boroughs. Senior centers foster friendships, offer fitness and wellness classes, hot, nutritious meals, and other fun activities. Members can also get assistance applying for entitlements and benefits. Go see for yourself. Call 311 to get the location of a center near you.
Hi, I'm Bita Mostofi, the Acting Commissioner of the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs. Deferred action for childhood arrivals and temporary protected status are crucial protections for many immigrant New Yorkers, but the Trump administration has put these programs at risk. If you or someone you love have questions about DACA, TPS, or other immigration matters, call 311 and say Action NYC for a free and confidential legal screening. To learn more, visit nyc.gov/immigrants.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311 or visit nyc.gov.
Hi, I'm DCAS Commissioner Lisette Camilo. The Department of Citywide Administrative Services is an instrumental part of New York City government. We're comprised of more than 2,000 employees who work in personnel management, engineering, procurement, real estate, custodial services, and more. We're on a mission to be customer-focused, service-driven. To find out more about what DCAS does and who we are, visit nyc.gov/DCAS.
Hello, this is New York City Public Advocate Letitia James. Equal pay for equal work should be more than just a slogan. It should be a reality. And that's why I sponsored a law that bans employers from asking candidates about salary history, breaking a cycle of wage discrimination. If you are asked your salary history at a job interview, do not hesitate to call my office at 212-669-7250 or email us at pubadvocate.nyc.gov or call 311.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311.
The Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities now has a direct video conferencing line for people who are deaf or hard of hearing, ASL Direct. ASL Direct connects users to an information specialist fluent in ASL that can provide information about New York City services. If you have a friend, family member, or neighbor who is deaf or hard of hearing, let them know about ASL Direct. Help us spread the word. For more information or to get connected to New York City government, visit nyc.gov/ASL. That's nyc.gov/ASL.
The Taxi and Limousine Commission's Accessible Dispatch Program now offers citywide service. Order a yellow or green wheelchair accessible taxi on demand or in advance at no extra cost. Download the Accessible Dispatch app, book at accessibleddispatch.com or call 646-599-9999. For New York Relay, dial 711. Now you can access the city like never before.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311 or visit nyc.gov.
Hello, this is New York City Public Advocate Letitia James. Every New Yorker deserves to live in a safe and decent home, but too often residents are forced to live in dangerous conditions and face illegal harassment by their landlords. If you are having problems with your home or your landlord, please call my office at 212-669-7250. Email us at pubadvocate.nyc.gov or call 311.
This is Charlene McCrae, the First Lady of New York City. Thousands of immigrant New Yorkers depend on temporary protected status, but for many people, this crucial protection has been ended by the Trump administration, and thousands of children are at risk of losing their guardians. TPS recipients are a vital part of our city. We can't let their families be torn apart. If you or a loved one has TPS or any questions regarding immigration, you can get a free, safe, and confidential legal screening. Just call 311 and say Action NYC. Learn more at nyc.gov/TPS.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311.
Hi, I'm Al Weber, Director of NYC Open Data. Every time you call 311, register for a city permit, or see your streets cleaned, you're seeing your government at work. You're also seeing the creation of public data. Did you know that there are over 1,900 such data sets available to the public on the NYC Open Data portal? We believe that every New Yorker can benefit from open data, and our portal gives you the tools to fully participate in a data-informed city. Get started by visiting nyc.gov/opendata.
I'm Donna Corrado, Commissioner of the New York City Department for the Aging. As people age, they often face a shrinking circle of family, friends, and social life, which leads to isolation and loneliness. But it doesn't have to be that way. A commitment of an hour a week as a friendly visitor makes a world of difference. To volunteer your time or to connect with a friendly visitor, call 311. A meaningful friendship can begin with a simple phone call.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311 or visit nyc.gov.
They do the work few ever see and fight for kids and families most of us never hear about. They're the ones who answer the call for help when a loving mom can't afford food, when addiction, domestic violence, or mental health issues turn a family upside down. even when new parents need a crib so their newborn can sleep safe. When our city's kids and families need help, Child Protective Specialists are there. Learn more about Child Protective Specialists at nyc.gov/CPS.
Inspired by a letter sent to the New York City Commission on Human Rights.
I was always in a good mood. Then it happened.
My coworker approached me from the back, grabbed me, and pressed down.
Okay,
I gotta
ready?
hit this? Do I gotta hit it?
No, it's good. You are good to go. Just
What do you mean?
adjust it so it's the right height for
I
you.
figure
when
I
okay,
felt like
all yours.
I go all the way up to 35th, all the way down to South Street. No.
Good morning. Hello, my name is Therese Huff. I welcome you all to my home and my community. I am so excited to be here, especially because we have the mayor here with us. I lived at Campos Plaza for decades. Before, my home was dark and gloomy, like you don't know. But now it's bright, thanks to the Section 8 recap program and the privatization of BFC. When Nycha first brought this idea to me and my fellow residents, we were skeptical. We thought they were selling our homes away. But that was not the case. Today, we have new LED lights, new bathrooms, tiles, the intercoms actually works, all while keeping our rights and our affordable rents. This includes, after 36 years of waiting, windows that finally actually kept the heat in and the sound out, especially after Sandy hit. People do not realize what we were living with. Our homes were destroyed, but not everything is new, and we all feel safer and happier. The partnership between Nycha and BFC made to bring this change about has made our homes wonderful. It's like we live in a hotel. Everything is revamped, and it is remarkable. Best of all, our homes will remain affordable, and we will continue to give the necessary repairs we need. As residents, we feel empowered to have a say in what works and repairs we need. And the other thing I want to say is I want to thank Mr. Brett Richards. He's always made us feel safe at everything that was being done. Thank you, Brett. And thank you all for hearing my story. And I am proud to introduce our mayor, Mayor de Blasio.
Therese, thank you so much. I want to thank you for telling your story, but also for your leadership as the Tenant Association president for Campos 1. And I want to also acknowledge and thank the president for Campos 2, Patricia Trochet. Thank you very much for your leadership. What you're hearing about today from Doris is striking. And we were up in her apartment.
Yes.
And Doris can tell you literally the whole history of this place because she was here when it opened, 1979.
Yes.
She saw it through some good years. She saw it through some really tough years. And then she saw this rejuvenation, this renaissance that was achieved with a public-private partnership. So, Doris, it is really amazing to hear how much your life has changed for the better.
Yes.
And how much this new approach is working for you and for your fellow residents. And I want to thank you because I know you said a really important thing there. You said now you get to hold the management accountable in a way that really shows results.
Yes.
And that's what we want for all Nycha residents, that when they need repairs, they get repairs. When there's a problem, it gets addressed, that their voices get heard. This is what we want to do more and more all over Nycha. So I know you're a strong voice.
Oh, yeah.
I know you helped make sure the voices of the residents were heard, and that's made all the difference. Let's thank Doris for all she has done. Thank you. And this model we're talking about today, what's happened here at Campos is the shape of things to come in so much of Nycha. This public-private partnership is an idea whose time has come, a way to bring new resources in that really make a difference. I want to commend all of the partners, all of the organizations and entities that have been a part of this because you've done great work. It's obvious. When I had never been in Campos before, to the best of my memory. When I came in to that courtyard area at the front, I was blown away. It looks absolutely beautiful. And then going into the apartment and seeing a beautiful, updated apartment. Another thing Doris said that really was striking to me, she said the renovation of her apartment was done in a really sensitive, helpful way. The bathroom was renovated one day, kitchen renovated one day. People were able to continue living in their apartments while renovations happened, and they were high-quality renovations. So this is something really wonderful for the residents. I want to thank also everyone at Nycha who, and you'll hear from some of my colleagues in a moment, but I want to thank everyone at Nycha who worked hard to make this model work for these residents. And a lot of people deserve appreciation. I want to particularly single out the Executive Vice President for Real Estate at Nycha, Takesha Whites. Thank you, Takesha, for your leadership. So at Campos 1, things were really turned around due to this public-private financing model. And I didn't know Doris before today. I didn't expect to meet someone who could tell me the whole history. But what's really clear is how much of a difference this model makes and how quickly it can make a difference. And I want you to know, when we came into office, all of my colleagues and I, 4.5 years ago, this approach didn't exist. It was not part of the plan. It was something that had to be created and innovated. We are now seeing what it means in real terms. It means, as I said, renovated kitchens, renovated bathrooms. It means that the grounds of the buildings, the lobbies, the elevators, everything looks different. Everything's updated. It's a place people can be very proud of. It's a place that now has a strong foundation. And whenever there is a need for repair, those repairs are being made quickly to keep it strong. That is the beauty of this model. Today, we're announcing that we're going to be expanding this approach rapidly. We have already 700 apartments in the Bronx that have this funding in place. We have now identified a team that will take over and make this happen in those 700 apartments, the full renovation of the buildings, total improvement of the quality of life. That work is going to start right away. We also are announcing 2,400 more apartments in Brooklyn and in Manhattan will now be getting this funding. And some of you were with us, I think, a few weeks back when we went to Ocean Bay in the Rockaways. Another example of this type of approach, what you saw there, very similar to what you see here at Campos 1. Full renovation, a lot of care, a lot of deep professional work being done to rehab the whole development. So we've proved it can work in the Rockaways. We've proved it can work here in the Lower East Side. We're going to make sure it works all over the city. And soon to see a big expansion in the Bronx and then in Brooklyn and other parts of Manhattan. The goal, per our current plan, Next Generation Nycha, the goal is to do 20,000 apartments that they will go through this full rehab with this public-private partnership. That's going to affect the lives of 50,000 or more New Yorkers. And you can see and you can talk to Doris about how much of a difference it makes. That's going to happen now for 50,000 more Nycha residents. This is a plan that works not only because of how the place gets better physically, but because of the ground rules. I want to really emphasize this up front. A public-private partnership where public control and public ownership are maintained, which means we, Nycha, and the city make sure we guarantee the long-term affordability of these apartments. The apartment rent levels remain the same standard as has been true always in Nycha, 30% of income. And these apartments remain affordable permanently. That is the beauty of this model. But with it comes very professional management working with the Nycha team to help improve the quality of life for all of the residents. Now, I want to say something to the residents of Campos 2, right next door, that we have more work to do, and we intend to extend this effort to Campos 2 as well. Clearly, everyone understands, and Doris' story makes it so clear, that these problems that we're confronting didn't happen overnight. She told me in 1979 it was a beautiful new building, and by the end of the 80s, the problems were beginning to really deepen. That means in the 90s and the 2000s, she and her colleagues here had to go through a lot before the change finally happened over the last couple of years. This has been the pattern throughout the Housing Authority. Decades of decline that literally coincide with decades of disinvestment, first by the federal government, then by the state government. And as I've said to all of you, city didn't do enough either. So we're trying to turn that all around because it's been 30, 40 years of decline. We won't fix it overnight, but we can fix it resolutely. We can make constant progress, and what you're seeing here today is proof that progress can be made in any building. Our goal, and we felt it from the beginning, was to fix Nycha, building by building, brick by brick. That's the kind of commitment it's going to take, and that's what we're dedicated to. Now, a lot of you remember, before the recent settlement with the federal government, we already had, as an administration, invested $2.1 billion of new investments in Nycha and $1.6 billion of expense money, $2.1 billion of capital, $1.6 billion of expense. Grand total, $3.7 billion. We were not obligated. The City of New York was not forced to do it, was not mandated to do it. No law made us do it. We believed it was the right thing to do, just like we believed entering into the settlement with the federal government was the right thing to do. And that guarantees another $1 billion in capital funding to Nycha over the next 4 years, and crucially, obligates the next administration to keep investing in Nycha, something I think is absolutely fair. So we're going to keep this work going. And I really want us to appreciate the folks who work at Nycha, who even under adverse circumstances make so much happen. Some of you are also with us at Queensbridge houses when we showed you the new roofs there. A lot of hardworking people at Nycha got that done. Beautiful new roofs at the biggest housing development in North America. That took hard work from the Nycha team and outside partners. Every day there are Nycha employees who, even against adverse circumstances, keep the heat on, keep the grounds looking right, make sure the repairs are done. Repair times have improved markedly. Safety has improved markedly. The team at Nycha should get credit for that. There's certainly a lot of fair criticisms that we all need to address, but I also want to acknowledge and express my appreciation for the folks who have worked hard and have made things happen. For those people who live in Nycha buildings and got new lighting and got repairs done more quickly and had a safer environment, ask them and they will tell you a lot of credit goes to the people who work at Nycha and to our colleagues in the NYPD for making people's lives better. This is all about fairness. I've said many times, this is the single biggest source of affordable housing in this city. Over 400,000 people live in Nycha apartments. To protect what New York City is all about, we have to protect Nycha. To make sure it's a city for everyone, we have to protect Nycha. To make sure we will be the fairest big city in America, we have to protect Nycha, and we intend to do it. Let me just say a quick few words in Spanish. Llegamos a la alcaldía decididos a corregir fallos históricos en Nycha. Nos complace anunciar que estamos viviendas más gracias a una colaboración público-privada. Así seguimos demostrando nuestro continuo compromiso con la vivienda pública. With that, I want to turn to the chair and CEO of Nycha, thanking him for all he is doing that's making an impact already and more to come, Stan Brezhnev.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's exciting to be here today to highlight the preservation efforts of, that Nycha has undertaken to bring needed repairs to residents. Consistent with the mayor's vision that he has just articulated, our efforts to preserve housing for future generations under our PACT program, it's a mouthful, Permanent Affordability Commitment Together initiative, brings units onto a more solid financial footing. And that's a clear path toward enhancing housing for residents, all while maintaining affordable rents and keeping residents in their homes. Under PACT, we have two programs, RAD, Rental Assistance Demonstration Program, and the conversion of our unfunded units. And today, as the mayor has noted, we have some exciting news on both of those fronts. We begin a journey today to advance the agenda of converting 15,000 such units under NextGen, an articulation of the mayor's vision and an agenda. We've completed 1,400 units in Ocean Bay, 3,100 are underway in the Bronx and Brooklyn, and today's announcement of 2,400 more brings us almost halfway to that 15,000 unit goal in only 3 years. The RAD sites we are announcing today have a need of about $400 million in repairs. Decades of federal disinvestment has resulted in significant shortfalls for Nycha, but with RAD as a tool, these repairs become possible. Additionally, we are progressing in converting our unfunded units through a similar preservation program to RAD. 700 of those unfunded units with 1,500 residents at Baychester and Murphy houses have spent 20 years without dedicated funds. Today, we can finally say those funds are coming. And in the public-private partnership, we have a new team working with us, MBD Community Housing Corporation, Camber Property Group, and L&M Development Partners to start repairs as soon as 2019. Look, across the country, cities like Chicago and Atlanta have retreated from public housing. Mayor de Blasio has committed to supporting Nycha's future, and these two initiatives are the key to preserving housing for future generations today. As has been noted, where we are today, Campos Plaza demonstrates that through public-private partnerships, we can provide residents the homes they deserve. What Ms. Hove said, this housing is a remarkable change for residents and something we want to expand to thousands more. I'm proud to be here today to support the future of public housing, and I look forward to our continued work with Mayor de Blasio, residents, and all our partners as we work to modernize and protect Nycha housing.
Thank you very much, Stan. Now it's my pleasure to introduce a representative of this community who is particularly known for defending the interests and rights of tenants in Nycha and in all types of housing, one of the strongest voices for the rights of tenants in Albany, State Senator Brad Hoylman.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for being here today. And I'm here because Doris Huff told me to be here today. She's the kind of constituent, she's the kind of tenant leader, and I know my colleagues agree, when she says jump, you as an elected official say how high. So Doris, congratulations. When this program began, I admit a lot of my colleagues and I had skepticism about its success, but the truth is that if the tenants are happy, then as an elected official, I'm happy. And I know Pat and Doris have been very involved in making certain that the rights of tenants are maintained. And I know, Mr. Mayor, that there are other issues that, as you look to expand this demonstration project, we have to talk about, including wages for workers, including Albany's involvement in funding, and other very important data points that we'll need to analyze. But today I'll say that it's pretty much indisputable that central air conditioning is a good thing, and I know Doris agrees with me. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much, Brad. Now I'll introduce someone who represents this district as well, and she is a newcomer to elected office, but not at all a newcomer to this community that she has grown up in and understands so deeply, and understands particularly the needs of folks who depend on affordable housing. My pleasure to introduce Councilmember Carlina Rivera.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor, for inviting me and for organizing this. And first, I have to thank the tenant leaders who are here. Doris, you are clearly a force. And to Pat, Patricia Troche, and to Christine Bookin for all the work that you have done. I was just here for the Campos Houses Family Day on Friday, and I've been here year after year. It is one of my favorite events to see the two houses, Campos 1 and Campos 2, come together, multiple generations of families who have been here for almost 40 years, getting together just in this moment of celebration and of just being proud to live in the Lower East Side. And so I'm here to support you. When Campos 1 underwent renovation and Campos 2 did not, I thought that we could do better as a city. And even this very facility that we're in, and I have to thank University Settlement for hosting us today. Yes, thank you so much. You're a wonderful organization. Even this community center, after Superstorm Sandy, took flooding into its doors, and it exacerbated the issues that it already had. And even this facility itself needs investment from our city and from the federal government, and we need to do better for 400,000 families all over the city. So why I'm here is because, just like my colleague in Albany, Senator Hoylman said, is we have to support the tenants and to see the apartments, to see the common areas of Campos 1, and know we could bring that just across the courtyard to Campos 2. That's why I'm here, to support quality of life, to support the type of apartments that you should be living in that we've been waiting decades for after neglect from the federal government. As someone who grew up visiting family in Farragut houses and in Bushwick houses, I know that we should be doing so much better for our NYCHA tenants. And I'm glad to be here as we start considering NYCHA as part of our general public infrastructure. I'm here to support that mission, and I know it'll take us a long way, and it'll take a lot of leaders at this table and throughout the city, and I'm proud to be here to stand with you all, Pat and Christine and Doris. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm looking forward to working with you all as this project continues. Thank you.
Now, my pleasure to introduce one of the #1 defenders of New York City in Albany, because as chair of the Assembly Housing Committee, there's literally no one who has a bigger role in defending the interests of tenants and NYCHA residents. We need help from Albany. We're still fighting for it, but our strongest voice is the chair of the Assembly Housing Committee, Assemblymember Steve Simbrowitz.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Because of state and federal disinvestment, and we have to remember the state stopped funding NYCHA in 1998 when they cut off the periodic subsidies for state developments. We have found that this public-private partnership is the answer to the future of public housing. We can see that not here at Campos, but at Ocean Bay. It's amazing the change that occurred there. And I have to give a lot of credit to resident engagement. They're the ones who work with all the residents to make sure they understand what exactly is going to happen over the next couple of years and what their rights are as tenants. So congratulations, Mr. Mayor. The future of public housing is with RAD and the public-private partnerships.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Assemblymember. Finally, a very strong voice right here at home as chair of the Committee on Housing and Buildings in the City Council, one of the leading voices for affordable housing, but also he represents a district in central Brooklyn that is going to be one of the beneficiaries of the announcement we're making today that's going to see this kind of extraordinary renovation happening right in his own district. Councilmember Robert Cornegie.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. So I'm fortunate enough to represent the vibrant communities of Bedford-Stuyvesant and Northern Crown Heights, as was mentioned. And as you know well, over the past several months, problem after problem has arisen at NYCHA housing developments across the city. The severe disrepair many of these buildings have fallen into due in no small part to chronic disinvestment from the federal government, and the residents have too often been forced to suffer. NYCHA developments throughout the city have suffered from a lack of funding for capital improvements for far too long. With the funding available through the RAD program, more New Yorkers living in public housing will benefit from the improvements they have been waiting for, all while the affordability and public ownership of their apartments is preserved. This is the kind of innovation critical to the long-term sustainability and maintenance of this city's housing stock. It is in keeping with the mission of this administration and my mayor and the values of this city that today these long-awaited renovations will be made. Through this program, nearly 2,400 apartments and 21 housing developments throughout Brooklyn and Manhattan. And I just want to say to my colleague, Carlina, the swag in which you carry yourself with, I knew you had to have ties to Brooklyn. These developments throughout Brooklyn and Manhattan, including 5 in my own district, will receive much-needed renovations. This is what it means to be fair and to ensure every New Yorker has what they need to live with the dignity and respect due to all our fellow human beings. So again, I thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your leadership in getting this done for the thousands of NYCHA residents whose lives will be positively impacted by these renovations. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember. Okay, we are going to take questions about today's announcement and NYCHA in general. I then have another update I want to offer on another topic, and we'll take questions on that, and then we will go to a broad Q&A off topic. On today's announcement, Dave. Oh, I'm sorry, Josh, my apology. I had a moment, Josh. Dave's behind you. I was looking at you. I was looking at him. I got all.
How many extra apartments are there total?
might have some sort of public-private relationship that would renovate?
I will get my colleagues to say the total number of apartments. I think the goal right now, the 20,000 apartments, so think about it this way, there's about 400,000 people who live in Nycha. Those 20,000 apartments will certainly reach more than 50,000 people. That's about 1 in 8 folks who live in Nycha. So it's a big piece of the puzzle. And that's separate from the other major investments. When I talk about the billions that have been committed, that's an entirely separate stream. So we think this piece, this 20,000 apartments, is a big piece of the equation. As it succeeds, and we are seeing visible success, we're going to look for opportunities to build on it and go farther. So I think the public-private partnerships are going to be a big piece of the equation, but there's also a lot of buildings where the direct public investment is going to be the difference maker. Total number of apartments?
175,000.
This 20,000 is, whether it's the RAD program or another program, it's some sort of public-private partnership in order to...
Correct. On the 20,000 units, yes. Sally. What's the financing? Nycha colleagues, can you explain the technical?
So help me out here, because some of these are rather technical and arcane. Essentially, this is built on Section 8, the rental...
project-based Section 8, just for
project-based Section 8.
So we're converting the Section 9 to Section 8 funding.
Is that on? Hold on.
We're converting the Section 9 to Section 8 funding, and we're looking at a number of different financing streams. So depending upon the particular nature of the development, we're looking at some conventional options. But as of right now, we're not looking for city subsidies.
And just to clarify, let me add and see, you can help clarify. This approach qualifies the buildings for project-based Section 8.
That's correct.
That's the crux of it, right? So that allows a different kind of federal funding stream to come with it, which also allows for the private sector folks to then have something to finance with. That's basically it?
That's absolutely right.
Okay. Yes, Greg.
Just a sense of the timeline on this, because I know like 1,400 at Ocean Bay, that's been going on for a while, that's done. You said there's 3,100 in the Bronx, and then there's now this 2,400 to get us towards the 15,000, right?
700, what I said, and you guys can add to it, 700 in the Bronx that have been funded and now have the team of organizations that have been put together to actually do the work. 2,400 in Brooklyn, Manhattan, we're announcing the funding for today. We will get you the specifics. In the case of the Bronx, the work is starting in the coming months. It will certainly start by the beginning of 2019. And then in the case of the 2,400, we'll get you the exact playout. Okay. Yes. Hey. Yes.
A lot of them don't understand what privatization means for them and their employees. And they're concerned that they're selling off public land, that they're going to lose their apartments. There's some major concerns. And then have one group.
Let me do that first part, and I'll come right back to the second part. This is not privatization in the sense of selling off land or losing public ownership or losing public control in any way, shape, or form. I want to be very, very clear about that. What I just said a moment ago, this model allows federal financing to come in, and that allows these private sector colleagues to then be able to work with that. Public control is maintained. The rents will be kept at the same level as with all other Nycha developments, 30% of income. The units will be affordable permanently. So I share, by the way, the fear of residents of the concepts of privatization you've seen in other cities. You have seen public housing destroyed. Very real, and people pushed out, absolutely. There are horror stories all around the country of literal privatization, buildings knocked down, never brought back. There's all sorts of things that people should be worried about. But I want New Yorkers to look very carefully at what's happening here. We, in this administration, are absolutely committed to Nycha long-term as a public entity, protecting affordability, protecting rent levels, protecting public control. they're providing the financing, but again, it's an automatic. It's not. Let's be clear. You apply for the program, and if you qualify, you get the financing. So we just didn't think of it that way. Juliet.
How did you determine which developments are getting the renovations?
How to determine which developments?
So with the RAD developments, we use a scatter site methodology to make sure that those that are, the scatter site unfortunately benefit from the least centralized approach. So this way they will have privatized management. It will help alleviate the needs that they're having on a capital need basis and make sure that they can get the management that they're looking for.
How did you select the developments that are getting the help? How did you select that? Like, did you decide which developments were getting the work done?
Again, those are the nature of where they are. A number of Nycha developments are in traditional campuses. These that we're announcing today are primarily scattered site.
Yes.
The 15,000 unit number was announced with the Next Gen Nycha plan in May of 2015. Why is that number still the same 3 years later when things like your housing plan have grown? Why still 15,000?
So, as I said, 15,000 now augmented by 5,000 other units that are a very similar mechanism, but weren't included in that first group. So 20,000 is what we're working with now. We are looking to expand on that number, and as soon as we secure a pathway to do that, we will have updates. But I think this is a typical situation where ramp-up time in the beginning does take time. It's a newer approach for New York City, making sure it works, making sure we can do it on a bigger scale. Now, I think, and it mirrors some of what we went through with our affordable housing plan in general. You remember originally we were projecting, I think it was 15,000 units a year. We've been able to get that up to 25,000 units a year now between new and preserved. First few years do take some ramp-up time, but we're really confident in the model now, and we're going to make it go very fast from this point.
Just two things. One, my understanding of Section 8 was always that there was kind of a finite funding on that. By converting these, you're not taking Section 8 away from other developments, are you?
No, I'm going to start. Let me stay on that, and you guys will correct me if I get anything wrong. You're right technically, but in practice, it's open-ended. So as I understand, it's a 20-year term initially, but very typically is renewed in 20-year increments long-term. So that's what the history has shown us, and we feel confident of that. In terms of, no, we are not taking away from other developments. This is additive.
That's right.
These are additional resources coming in because it qualifies for project-based Section 8.
Briefly talk us through how the RAD program works, so we just kind of understand how you describe it.
Sure. So there's a LOI that's entered into that we
What does that mean for us civilians?
Sure. So we send to HUD a letter of interest on the buildings that we're looking to apply to. We get authority under HUD to convert these units from Section 9 financing to Section 8 financing. Once that process is done, we go through a competitive RFP process to choose our developer partners, team members, to convert the units and provide the repairs. At the same time, we're putting together a financing plan to get them all financed and converted and get the repairs to the residents. So that's it in a nutshell.
The right to do the work, I guess.
I'm going to start, and you'll add, because I was asking all the same questions yesterday. Two ways it works for the private entities. One, because of the level of Section 8 funding, they are able to have enough money to run the development, and you see how well run it is, so there's ample enough resources to do that, and have some additional money for a management fee. And then two, they can finance against the revenue stream. So in effect, imagine if you or anyone has a 20-year guaranteed revenue stream, you can borrow against that because you have a guaranteed asset. And that's what makes it appealing to them. But to me, this is truly a win-win because it brings in this kind of expertise that you can see applied here, but it does it in a way that's realistic for private and nonprofit developers to utilize. And we win in the end. It's a new element of federal funding, as you asked before, does not take away from other things. And so it's a model we found to be very effective.
Right. And just to add to that, the conversion is a legal instrument that allows us to go out and get the private financing.
Okay, yes.
So, does the rent money from these go to this private company now? Does it go to that?
The rent goes to the operations of the developments.
Damn good question.
Say it again.
Say it again. I ask myself the same question. I think we can say that the physical decline of Nycha dates to 1980, and this is not a partisan statement, this is an analytical statement. When Ronald Reagan was elected is when the federal government started pulling back from support for public housing. And then it intensified in the 90s when Newt Gingrich was Speaker of the House. So we physically have been living with declining funding for Nycha buildings and physical degradation of Nycha buildings literally since the 1980s. I don't know why this wasn't tried earlier, because it's a great idea. I don't know the history of RAD, but it's an idea as time has come.
So RAD itself, though there were a few precursors, was legislated 2012.
Well, there
so
you go.
it's also an evolution and change in federal policy, which sort of parallels their withdrawal from traditional public housing.
Okay, any more questions on this? Yes.
Following up on Sally's question before about financing, do you anticipate using tax net bond financing for these developments, or likely other sources? I know bond cap is a limited resource that you also have to use for the mayor's housing plan.
We don't want to rule out any financing stream. Certainly, bond cap has been used in a number of our developments to date, and it's one that's being considered. But we're looking at conventional financing options as well, just to open up the pool.
Okay, last call on this, please.
Where do things stand with selling off, leasing land that's not used for building now in private development?
So you mean, just want to make sure we're speaking the same language. Under the Next Generation Plan, there were specific sites identified for development on Nycha sites. That's continuing. We need, in fact, to speed that up, is the honest truth, because the plan we put together, which maximizes both affordable housing creation and revenue for the surrounding development and for Nycha in general, I think absolutely makes sense. Of course, there's going to be intense local discussions, and of course, there's going to be some of the same concerns about, is this a good long-term decision? I'm convinced it is. I've had a few years back a meeting with residents at Wyckoff and Brooklyn. I intend to have other meetings. But that's something I want us to now double down on, too. I think it's part of the solution. Yes? Sure. There's been very, I think, productive conversations with the Southern District. Again, they are the ultimate decision maker there, so I want to yield to them in terms of they will decide how and when to update on the process, but we've been engaged with them on a regular basis. I don't have a specific date for you, but I do think, the conversations are productive. I think everyone would like to get it done reasonably soon, and then, of course, it has to go to the court for ratification, and there's other steps thereafter. But, again, I think the conversations are going well. Okay, last call. Yes, Rich.
Did I understand Senator Hoylman to say that these apartments all have air conditioning? Is that right, Central Air?
Is it Central Air? It's since the rehab. What do they have? Do we know?
Central Air.
Central Air.
Central Air.
A damn good thing, Central Air.
What is it?
I think it's a
what?
It's a combined system.
Yeah, that's cool. Play on words, impressive. Yeah, and Doris obviously made the point that since that was put in, they have not had the heat problems they used to have.
That's right.
So it's another example of getting at the root of the problem.
It's actually a paycheck.
Yes.
On WNYC, the city doesn't know how the 19 kids actually got elevated blood levels.
Wait, I lost you for a moment.
2 weeks ago on WNYC,
Not sure I heard all the question, but let me try and answer and tell me if I'm on the right path here. We know there are kids all over New York City with elevated blood levels. It's our job to help all of them, anyone through our health and hospitals facilities, our Department of Health. Very clearly, I want everyone to hear this. And thank God New York City has done real work over the last couple of decades to greatly reduce the amount of lead exposure. And we've done a lot more than many cities. But any child with elevated lead levels needs care, and we want to make sure they get that care. And if the family can't afford it, we'll provide it for free. On the question of how children get that exposure, the scientific truth is we don't know in many cases, because it's not just paint, there are other sources. And unless we have an exact set of evidence of where exactly it came from, we can't say. We do know that any apartment where there's presence of lead or has been presence of lead and there's a child 6 or younger has to get those regular inspections and that regular remediation, and we're going to keep doing that. And let's be clear, that lapsed years ago. It's now being done. But just, I'm trying to be honest about the scientific element of it. We don't know because, unfortunately, there are multiple sources.
Sir, I have a correction.
Please.
Can I just say
Yes,
something?
you may.
Hi, I have a correction. It's not central air. It's actually called a PTAC unit, that where they install the air conditioner and the heating system comes through it. To me, it's central air, but it's really a PTAC unit. So that's the correction.
Is it better than what was there before?
Yes, it is. Yes, 100% better.
You get heat?
Yes, all day long.
Okay.
All day and all night.
We like the PTAC unit then. Last call on this before I go to another topic. Yes, way back. Well, the good news is that I think RAD is, and I'll start and my colleagues are more expert, we'll jump in. I think RAD is actually getting good reviews around the country and hopefully is the kind of thing that could get expanded upon. You know, I've been reminding people that even though we've had a very long stretch in which the federal government was not involved in affordable housing the way it used to, we've seen a couple of glimmers of progress, including in the last federal budget where there actually was some new money put into public housing. I think a lot of that had to do with Senator Schumer. It was for the whole country. But I also think some new approaches like RAD, which obviously started in the Obama administration, but I think is gaining favor even with this Congress, might be expanded upon. So there are some interesting pieces. We're certainly going to work for that because we'd like to take full advantage of it. Yes? No, I appreciate the question. So I've often talked about this, and because I am a proud Democrat and a proud progressive, I think people have maybe assumed some things that if they look a little careful or more carefully, they would see some evidence. I think we have been living now for a decade or two in a time of greatly reduced government funding compared to what used to be in the past, obviously, especially from the federal level. And look, I come from a philosophy very much informed by the New Deal of Franklin Roosevelt, and I always say my family members used to talk about Roosevelt and the New Deal like, you know, he was another family member, and like it had a huge positive impact on their lives, and I would love nothing more than to have government be able to fund things the way it used to. But we've been seeing for decades that's just not real anymore. So there's times when public-private partnerships make sense. The crucial question is there public control? And are there clear public benefits? So you can look at a lot of situations in this administration where we determine those kind of balances make sense. Even going back to my time as a council member, and you can look at what's happening with Brooklyn Bridge Park, which I was deeply involved in. There's a case where some people in the community did not like a public-private partnership, but I thought it was essential for the maintenance of that incredible park for everyone. And it also was part of how we got affordable housing into the mix. So I absolutely think there's a place for them, but with really strict ground rules. Okay, last call on this topic, and then we're going to go over to another topic, and then we're going to go to off topic. Okay, so let me go to another topic which is on folks' minds here and all over the country. And a number of you were with me on Wednesday when I went to the Cayuga Center in East Harlem. And thank you to my colleagues, appreciate it. And that was a very painful experience on one level, because seeing kids who have been taken away from their parents was horrible. And the fact it was done with our tax dollars in our name. But if there was something positive about it, was the folks who worked there trying their best to help these kids, and I thought they were very earnest. One of the employees at the Cayuga Center said to me, I asked, how do you know that these kids can reach their parents or their grandparents? How can they reach a family member? And she said to me, some kids are old enough that they know the names of their relatives and they know their phone numbers. She said some kids have a scrap of paper in their pocket with a phone number for their mother or grandmother where they can reach them. But she said younger kids a lot of times don't have that. Or they had the scrap of paper and they lost it. So literally, the idea that a child might have been taken from their parent, taken 2,000 miles away, and have no way to reach their mother or father, and the folks who work at the Cayuga Center, even if they wanted to make that connection, are not always in a position to do it. And they're not being given clear information from the federal government of how to do it. What they described to me was a kind of barely controlled chaos where there was no game plan for reuniting these kids with their families, and there was no plan for getting legal representation for the parents, and there was no guarantee that the kids could even talk to their parents or family members. And it was all done in a very fast and haphazard way. So that's what we learned on Wednesday. My senior members of my administration who were with me at the Cayuga Center proceeded over the next 48 hours after that to visit the other 2 locations that are housing kids as part of the family separation policy here in New York City. Catholic Charities runs one of them, and Lutheran Social Services runs the other. They are much smaller numbers of kids. At this moment, we estimate the grand total of kids in New York City is about 300. We have no indication of a reunification plan. We have no timeline from the federal government. We have no accounting for how many kids are here or where they are. We have sent informal and formal communications to federal officials asking for these answers. I've sent a letter to the Secretary of Health and Human Services just asking for an accounting of these kids and what the plan is. No response yet. I'm going to try and reach the HHS Secretary and the Homeland Security Secretary this week to try and get some clarification. But right now, it's about 300 kids. These are all kids who came here under the family separation policy, so just in the last 2 months. They are overwhelmingly Guatemalan, Salvadoran, and Honduran children, almost none from any place else. Some very young, the youngest at the Cayuga Center, 9 months old. Most of them in the age range 4 years old to 10 or 12. Certainly the kids I saw in the classroom were generally in that sort of 4 to 10 range. The other thing I want to, 2 other things I want to say to you. One, the health impact. So what's really clear to us is there was not a plan to take care of the health of these kids. I will at least be clear about the fact the federal government did have a plan for them to get into foster care, which means staying with families, did have a plan for them to get daytime programming, school of some sort, but there was not a health care plan. And when we talked to the Cayuga Center, they were very straightforward that they would have to try and figure out a way to get to health care for these kids. Obviously, these kids didn't have insurance, so that became a challenge. We are stepping in with the Health and Hospitals Corporation, our public hospitals, our public clinics, to provide whatever health care they need. There's been a group of kids who've been seen so far. Number one problem we're seeing is mental health challenges. Obviously, kids have been through a very traumatic experience, and they need support and they need counseling to get through this. So we are providing that for free to these organizations. Lastly, a lot of New Yorkers have asked how they can help. Anyone who wants to help can call 311. Right now, the best way to help for those who can is financial donations, either for the legal support for these families or for the social service organizations that are providing the direct help to the kids. Some people have said they want to become foster parents. There certainly is a need. We're going to have that available hopefully later today on 311 as well, the way you can apply to the various organizations to become a foster parent. Anyone who wants to do that right away, they can literally reach out to the Cayuga Center or Catholic Charities or Lutheran Social Services and ask them directly how to go about that application. But there definitely is a need for additional foster parents here in the city. Very quickly in Spanish, just a few sentences. La cruel política del gobierno del presidente Trump para las familias que vienen a este país debe parar. En Nueva York vamos a seguir luchando cada minuto por los niños que han sido separados de sus familias. Nuestros corazones y los de toda Nueva York están con todos y cada uno de ellos. With that, I want to take questions on this topic of this family separation policy.
The reaction on Friday when I talked to the Consul General from Honduras. I mean, the first question that we're all asking is, should these kids all be reunited with their parents? And he surprisingly said, not necessarily. He said sometimes they're better served in a foster family. And he said a lot of these kids, about 40% of the kids, they don't come with their parents. They come alone.
That's not what we're seeing here. So I don't know him or his views, but I'm going to disagree respectfully. I asked this very specific question at the Cayuga Center. Were some of these kids, independently coming here? Were they the unescorted kids that we saw a while back coming in large numbers? The answer was no. All of these kids came here with their parents and then were separated from their parents. If they came here with their parents, to me, it's self-evident they should be reunited. Again, I'm not going to judge someone else, but I don't know many situations where you'd rather have kids away from their own parents, particularly if their parents are trying to save them from violence and oppressive situations in their home countries. If there's a specific reason why a parent can't take care of a child, let that be determined by a court. But as a general rule, people coming here fleeing violence, trying to get their kids to a better life, those sound like good parents to me. Yes?
Mayor, how do you know that there are 3 centers and not more? How do you know that there's 300, considering that the federal government is talking to you?
Yes.
To what do you subscribe to the silence from the federal government, considering that they're not only within the 5 boroughs, but additionally, you're providing taxpayer services?
Yeah. It's totally unacceptable. And I've asked a lot of people, can they remember anything like this? And the answer is no. It doesn't mean the government and the city and the state all sing kumbaya, but there's always been a level of professional respect and a sense that information must be shared in a democracy. This is unprecedented. And it's, and I want to say the media has done a very good job of uncovering what's happening here, and people should see this as a very dangerous precedent where even senators and Congress members can't go into the centers in Texas, and the federal government is refusing to give anyone a straight answer about how many kids are involved. If they can do that to immigrant kids, what's next? People should be really, really worried about that. But we're only, Josh, working from what we know. These are the organizations that have acknowledged to us that they're doing this work, and they've told us the numbers they're dealing with. They've been forthcoming. There may be others we don't know about. It's impossible to know. And clearly the federal government is trying not to share the information. And I think for some in leadership in the federal government, this policy has proven to be a real negative situation for them in terms of public opinion, so they're trying to stonewall. I'm sure some other people in the federal government are embarrassed to be a part of this. But no, we do not have a definitive answer. That's what we're trying to get. Yeah. I asked that question too because I couldn't believe it at first, Jillian, that kids would be sent 2,000 miles, including by bus in some cases. No, the answer is no. I asked, so at that moment, Wednesday, the Cayuga Center had 239 kids all there because of family separation. I said, how many had relatives even somewhere on the East Coast? They said maybe a third. The clear majority, if they had relatives, they were in the West and Southwest. It was not that. What seemed to be the reason, in their view, one opinion, was that in a lot of other states, the capacity isn't there. They don't have a substantial number of social service organizations that are big enough to handle a large influx of kids. They don't have as developed foster care programs. So look, we're a compassionate city and a compassionate state, so it makes sense that we would have more of that. But you'd think if someone was cooking up a policy, which makes no sense to begin with to separate parents from their children, but you'd think they would have said, well, if we're going to do it, we should at least keep them nearby. There was no such forethought. Yeah, obviously, it's part of the same problem. If an unaccompanied minor comes here fleeing violence and oppression, they should get an opportunity to be heard and to be protective. In fact, they have a legitimate claim. I'm not clear at all that that's happening. If kids have been here for a few years, we should be very careful to make sure we're not sending them back to a dangerous situation. So, you can say.
I'm very touched by this. I used to be a foster parent for Catholic Charities. When I go back to my office today, I'm going to put notices in the building to let other tenants know that they can call Catholic Charities and these other two organizations to try to let's get these kids adopted, because it's not fair of what they're going through. And sometimes all they need is love, a touch of love, a feel of love. And we have so many people in this development right here in Campos Plaza that already has, I know there are quite a few that are foster parents, and a lot of them don't know that these kids can possibly be adopted by them. So I will take this back.
Thank you.
For sure.
Thank you. That's a good, compassionate New Yorker there. Yes. Not yet, but to Josh's point before, we don't know. We are not getting an accounting of the situation of children who have been brought here in general. But I have no indication of that at this point. Yes.
I'm not sure if the administration has talked about this yet. As far as the kids, obviously their mental health has got a lot of attention. But as far as education, I guess I was just a little surprised to hear that they were having classes for the kids at the social service provider, rather than the foster parents taking the kids to the local school. Is there any kind of policy around what they should be doing?
I think I'm only going to say this. We have not spoken to that before, to the best of my knowledge, but I think there is a common sense element to this that does make sense to me. From the point of view of the providers, their goal is to get these kids reunited with their parents. And they're not planning for these kids to be here for a long stay. And I think it is probably easier in the scheme of things to keep kids together who have come from the same country and who can be really focused on in this setting. It's imperfect, obviously, but that's probably, and they're being taught in Spanish, which is basically the only language for most of these kids. I think that's probably smoother than trying to bring them into the public school system if they're not going to be here long term. Also, obviously, our schools are about to shut down for the year. This center is going to continue going. Go ahead, Juliet.
Are these providers getting federal funding?
Yes. To the best of my understanding, they are part of this. They have a contract for refugee resettlement in general, and they were doing this work in other ways before, and then out of nowhere, it was put on steroids, and suddenly they're dealing with hundreds of kids instead of the occasional kid. Okay, last call on this, please.
I'm just curious what you thought of President Trump's press conference on Friday, where he did that press conference with families with relatives who were killed by immigrants.
Look, it's a very clear pattern. First of all, my heart goes out to any family who has lost a loved one to crime of any kind. And anyone who has committed such a crime needs to feel the consequences. Here in this city, we have 170 offenses that if you commit one of those offenses and you're found guilty and you came here undocumented, you are leaving, and we are fully cooperative with ICE in those deportations, and I'm very, very comfortable with that. That's the law of this city. I believe in it. But what I think the president is doing is not addressing the public safety issue in a sober way. The president is trying to create division, and he's trying to paint a picture of people of color, and particularly Latinos, being agents of violence in this country. Nothing could be further from the truth. This is a country that will be Latino majority in a few decades, and these folks are the backbone of America and hardworking people who make America work. And there's a very small number of people who do the wrong thing, as with every community. But the president, every chance he gets, tries to portray Latinos as criminal, and I find it disgusting, and I find it unpresidential and unfair. Yes?
Give us a sense as to how it works. So you have your colleagues like calling intergovernmental people at
Yeah. Particularly our Commissioner for Immigrant Affairs, Bita Mustafi, who has been working with DHS all along. I mean, we don't agree with some of the policies, but we still try to work with Homeland Security on a variety of fronts. She's had a regular dialogue with them, been asking them for answers. We've been reaching out to HHS. Again, I've formally sent a letter Friday to the Secretary. It's very specific questions. I'm going to try and speak to the Secretary directly. But, you know, under any normal situation, and I certainly can say this was true of the Obama administration, it was true of the Bush administration. If a city was asking these kind of questions, they would get some answers. It would be normal to share this kind of information. We've never seen anything like this. Last call on this before we go to other questions. Okay, any other questions? Yes.
Earlier today, Governor Cuomo promoted made an announcement about his bringing to LaGuardia Airport and passed the Senate Assembly last week. I just wanted to know your thoughts about the air train the building was authorized the native city-owned land to facilitate this project. I want to know your thoughts on it, whether you think it's practical, whether you think it's about $1.5 million. Just your thoughts on it.
So I want to separate my thoughts on people getting to LaGuardia from my thoughts about the specific legislation, because I do not know the details of that legislation, so I will come back to you today with a comment on that. We need more ways for people to get to LaGuardia. That's obvious. And I'm supportive of more and better alternatives. But again, how we do it is a different question, so we'll get you a more full answer today. Yes?
Yes. Do you plan to visit with the family of Usman?
I spoke to his mom yesterday evening. It was heartbreaking. Really admirable woman who talked about all she did to bring him up the right way. And look, he was part of our Police Explorers program, and I really admire young people who become a part of that. So I said to her that we want to find a way to honor him in a lasting way. Related to our Explorers program. We want other young people who become a part of that to remember him as a young man who was on his way to our police force. And I'll figure out with her the right time to visit as well.
Police have been cracking down on gangs and focusing on gang violence, and this appears at this time, early investigation, that this is related.
Wait, I couldn't hear the last part.
It appears at this time that this is related to a gang.
Yeah, look, gang violence, we've been talking about this for years, is one of the central challenges we face. The city has gotten safer year after year. Shootings are way down, homicides are way down, but to the extent we have focal points of violence, a lot of it's related to gangs. That said, you'll notice the NYPD has done a series of gang takedowns, typically with a large number of arrests, dozens, in some cases more than 100, a lot of weapons seized, a lot of drugs seized. Those are intensifying. And the reason they're intensifying is as other crime is going down, more time and energy is being put onto gangs. So the precision policing model puts a whole lot of focus on gangs. This was a disgusting, horrible incident. I think you're going to find that everyone responsible will be brought to justice. But yeah, we want to get under the skin of the gang problem more every year and cut it off at the root. Yes. look, it would be a tragedy in any situation. It, for all of us, is even more painful if it was mistaken identity. And I'm not going to confirm details. I'll let the NYPD do that. But what hurts me the most is the notion that this was a young man who wanted to serve this city, be a part of our police force, and had such a bright future, and now is taken from us. And I think it, for all of us, feels very personal to have lost sort of an exemplary young man. Yes, way back.
4-year-old girl on her scooter was run over and killed yesterday on the sidewalk on Hart Street in Bushwick. The sidewalk is next to a laundromat where there's a parking lot, and cars have to back out of this parking lot right onto the sidewalk in order to get onto the street. You know, people in the neighborhood say this was an accident waiting to happen. I'm wondering, what are your thoughts on this? What's the city going to do to make sure this doesn't happen again?
Yeah, my heart goes out to the family at 4 years old. That's particularly painful to lose someone so young. And I don't know the location, but you know what we're doing with Vision Zero. Everywhere we can, we're changing the physical layout to make it safer. And we're adding a lot more enforcement. And obviously right now we're fighting to get more speed cameras. So the Vision Zero idea applies to a lot of different ways of keeping people safe, and particularly kids safe. I'll have my team look at this site, and whatever we can do to make it safer, we certainly will. Let me see if there's any others. Yes, one more. Wait. Let me see. Let's get them, and then I'll get you at the to close out. Go ahead.
The council rather tomorrow is going to have a hearing on a few bills related to Airbnb. I was wondering if you could tell me what you think about Airbnb, and if you feel that there should be some kind of a pathway for it to be used legally in apartment buildings that, you know, that are larger than 1, 2, or 3 family homes.
I have really mixed feelings. And the mixed feelings begin with the corporate responsibility question, which is a challenging question with the sharing economy. We've seen it in transportation, we've seen it in lodging, where unfortunately a lot of the companies have not been forthcoming with information and have not been particularly interested in following the law. Now, I'm speaking very broadly here. So that gives me pause right off the bat. Airbnb has, in some places, come to some kind of better approach with local governments, but you know, I have not seen the kind of sharing of information and data that would make me more comfortable. There's a lot of problems we've identified to Airbnb about safety and security for people in buildings, for example, and avoiding criminal activity. I'm not satisfied with what's been done to address those. And that's part of why we have very aggressive enforcement now through our Office of Special Enforcement. We obviously see de facto hotels, whole buildings, in effect, that are Airbnb without going through the proper regulation. So I have a lot of questions and concerns. I'm glad the council is looking at this. On the positive side, I think, you know, a beginning with some of what the Supreme Court acted on the other day, another step towards ensuring that governments will get appropriate revenue, that would be necessary for any different outcome. I think if the sharing economy companies want to have a different relationship with this city and other cities, they should be a lot more forthcoming with the information they have. Last call. Yep, Rich.
Mr. Mayor, this isn't exactly a local question, but my office asked me to ask you about Sarah Huckabee Sanders being refused service, and whether or not, and in some cases apparently, there are people who are saying you ought to protest anytime you see a cabinet member out somewhere, follow them around and go after them. Do you think that that's a good, logical way to do things? Or?
No, I don't. I appreciate that. I think the folks at that restaurant were acting from the heart. I think a lot of them are very troubled by what they see in the country and were expressing it, but I don't think it's the right approach. I think when it comes to all public accommodations, everyone needs to be respected. By the way, I don't think anyone should be refused service of any kind. Even if someone says they have religious or moral beliefs, I think if you're involved in a public enterprise, it should be fair and equal treatment for everyone. And I think for those folks who disagree with the administration, they should express that politically They should vote. They should go to protests. They should do it in a way that's actually going to have an impact. Maybe getting upset with someone who's at the table next to you may feel good, but it doesn't change anything. And look, folks come up to me and express their opinions all the time, and I'm never shocked by that, but I think it's a different matter than refusing someone service. I actually don't think that's healthy. I think we have to sit at the same table, if you will, right? And I've seen that, by the way. I was in Texas on Thursday with a whole group of Republican mayors who were there with me in Common Cause and my fellow Democrats to oppose the family separation policy. I thought it was a very healthy thing. So I'd like to encourage people to try and have a dialogue even when we disagree, but I do not like the notion of people being turned away from public accommodations. Okay, thanks everyone. Oh, wait, last call, last word. Doris.
I just want to say, I'm thinking about what the young lady said about the young baby getting hit. When you walk out this courtyard out here, you see the street?
Yeah.
Where the Channel 2 News parked at? Where it says, do not enter?
Oh.
Yeah, where L&M put the sign up, do not enter. I'm sorry, but it did say Channel News.
Channel 2 is being shamed.
Channel 2. And Nycha's vehicles are always driving up there, and that's going to be an accident waiting to happen.
So you want us to make sure that
there you go.
Vehicles are more careful.
Not come up on the road.
Don't come up on this.
It's a street.
You guys on it?
Yeah, we're going to enforce it.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for calling it to our attention.
Of course.